Let me tell you, when I first rolled into this so-called peaceful neighborhood, all I wanted was some quiet. Maybe mow the lawn, grill a steak, just live easy, you know? Instead, I ended up smack in the middle of a suburban war with an HOA that, honest to God, acted like they owned me from day one. Picture this. I'm still unloading boxes from my move, my Porsche gleaming in the driveway. And that's when I spot her. Karen, though around here she insists you call her Sandra Hole, the vice president of the HOA. That woman locked eyes with me like I'd just kicked her dog. And right there, before I even got the keys off my ring, she starts in with the "we have standards here" routine, flashing a smile so fake I swear you could peel it off and reuse it. Now, maybe I should have seen the warning signs. This wasn't the kind of place where folks wave and bring over a casserole. No, Sandra and her little army of clipboard commandos had other plans. My first week, I got hit with a fine for improper parking. My Porsche was literally parked in my own driveway. But nope, that wasn't good enough for Sandra. Then came the grass. Too long, they said. I'd mowed it 2 days ago. Trash bins not brought in fast enough. Paint color not approved. It was like living in a boot camp run by busybodies. I tried to keep my cool, tried to play nice at the HOA meeting, but Sandra just smirked and told me, maybe this community isn't a good fit for you. There it was, the velvet glove threat. If you've ever felt the blood drain out of your face reading a letter from the IRS, you know that feeling I got when I found a note under my windshield that said, "Next time, we take it." This, after I walked out one morning and found every single tire on my car slashed. Deep, jagged, deliberate. It wasn't about the grass anymore. This was personal. So yeah, I took pictures, called the sheriff, filed a report, but deep down I knew Sandra and her HOA weren't going to stop until they either broke me or drove me out. What Sandra didn't know, and you might as well know it now, was that I'd been trained for trouble more than she could imagine. I spent years as a U.S. Marshal, and if there's one thing you learn in that job, it's not to back down when bullies start pushing. So I did what I do best. Documented everything. Doorbell cam footage, time-stamped photos. Every little note, and fine they threw my way. Deputy Morales took my report, nodded real serious, and told me to keep my cameras rolling. These people aren't amateurs if they're escalating. He warned. You know what I mean? When the local law tells you to watch your back, it's already gone too far. The next act? Pure daylight. 2 in the afternoon, sun bright as a welding torch. My phone pings, motion detected out front. I check the feed and there it is, a white SUV in my driveway. 3 men in HOA security vests climbing out like they own the place. One's lugging a tow hook, another's got a crowbar, and before I can even blink, they're attaching a clamp to my Porsche like they're repo agents. No knock, no courtesy, just business. Except their badges look like they came out of a cereal box. Now, I don't like violence. I really don't. But there are moments when you have to draw a line, and this was one. I stepped out slow, hands behind my back where my service pistol rests, not showing it, but letting them know I'm not some easy target. On what authority? I ask, calm as I can. The lead guy, probably hired muscle, flashes his fake badge. Tells me they're impounding the car for HOA violations. Try me, I say, not raising my voice, just letting the steel come through. They laughed. Yeah, that happened. But it didn't last. When I showed my Marshal's badge, the temperature changed. The bravado turned to bluff. Still, the lead guy goes for the crowbar, swings at my ribs. Big mistake. Instinct kicked in. I sidestepped, deflected, drew and fired a clean shot into his thigh. Nothing fatal, just enough to drop him. The others rushed me, swinging tools. I locked one's arm until it snapped, knocked the third into the pavement hard enough he wouldn't be getting up anytime soon. It was over fast, but my adrenaline was still spiking when the neighbors started streaming out. Phones up, jaws dropped. 3 minutes later, Deputy Morales rolls up, blue lights flashing, back up on his heels. The whole thing's on camera. Audio, video, timestamps, everything. Morales cuffs the men, calls for paramedics, collects the fake badges and tools. Within 48 hours, detectives trace cash payments and text messages straight to Sandra Hole, who, turns out, had hired these thugs to handle me and teach me a lesson. Her own signature was all over the money trail. Trial didn't take long. The video footage was brutal. Neighbors testified about Sandra's threats, the mountain of fines, and the climate of fear. The DA stacked up the charges: attempted grand theft auto, impersonating law enforcement, conspiracy, assault with a deadly weapon. Sandra got 30 months in state prison, $150,000 restitution, civil penalties on top. The hired muscle pled out, got their own stretch behind bars. The HOA imploded. Half the board resigned. New leadership got voted in. The rules changed. And me? I stayed. My Porsche's still in the driveway. The neighborhood learned you can't just bully someone out because they don't play your little HOA game. Sandra lost her house in the settlement. The board got sued left and right, and every scrap of footage is backed up in 3 places, just in case. I know some folks think I went too far, or maybe not far enough. But here's the thing. If you let bullies run wild, the neighborhood stops belonging to the people who actually live there and starts belonging to the people who bark the loudest. So tell me, was I right to stand my ground? What would you have done in my shoes? Drop your thoughts below, because in this country, justice isn't a spectator sport, and I want to hear where you stand. You'd think, after all that, the court cases, the jail time, the circus in the street, things would finally quiet down around here. For a while it did. The new board was scared straight. No more bogus fines. Stuffed in my mailbox. No one measuring my grass with a ruler or snapping photos of my trash bins at sunrise. I actually caught myself exhaling, just a little. Even started meeting some real neighbors, folks who'd always kept their heads down when Sandra's crew was in charge. Turns out, when fear gets lifted, people actually remember how to be decent. But old scars run deep in a place like this. There's always somebody itching to fill the power vacuum. Enter Greg, the new HOA president. He wasn't a bad guy, not at first glance. Greg's the kind of person who'll wave at you while jogging and remember your dog's name. But you could tell he was nervous. He knew exactly what happened to Sandra. And if there's anything HOA types hate more than losing control, it's looking weak. So, a few weeks after the dust settled, Greg invited me to a friendly coffee. Just neighbor to neighbor, he said. We met at the local diner, the kind with faded booths and a waitress who calls. Everyone hung. Greg tried small talk, but I could feel the tension crackling between us like a static charge. Finally, he leaned in and said, "Look, this neighborhood's been through hell. I'm not Sandra, but I need your help. The board is split, everyone's scared, and half the residents think you're some kind of vigilante." He was honest, I'll give him that. Greg admitted most folks had no idea how rotten things had gotten. He asked if I'd sit in on the next board meeting, not as an enemy, but as a voice of reason. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to just disappear into normalcy, mow my grass and mind my own. But another part knew this place would just slide right back into the old patterns if nobody spoke up. So, next meeting, I showed up, not with a stack of evidence, not packing a sidearm, just as a neighbor who'd been burned and was sick of the drama. The mood in that room was heavy, folks eyeing me like I was an unpredictable storm. But then something wild happened. Mrs. O'Rourke, this sweet old woman from 3 doors down who'd never said a word before, raised her hand. She told the board how Sandra threatened her with foreclosure over a $75 mailbox post. Then another guy, Ben from the corner lot, described how he'd been fined for unsightly Halloween decor after his wife passed away, and he just couldn't bring himself to take the decorations down. One by one, people started sharing stories, stuff I never would have guessed. For the first time, the board listened. Maybe that's the real twist nobody saw coming. Not the courtroom drama or the showdown in my driveway, but the way a scared, silent neighborhood found its voice. We didn't all become friends overnight, but folks realized the HOA wasn't some untouchable power. The new rules got rewritten, actual input from residents, fair warning instead of instant fines, real transparency. Greg even set up an anonymous complaint line so nobody would have to face retribution for speaking up. You'd think that would be the end of it, but no story in suburbia ever ties itself up with a neat little bow. About 3 months after things settled, I started noticing a silver sedan parked just up the street, always the same time of day, engine idling. One afternoon, I walked up and tapped on the window. The guy behind the wheel flashed a badge, private investigator, he claimed. Turns out, Sandra was appealing her conviction, claiming she'd been set up by rogue elements in the neighborhood, her lawyers trying to flip the script. Her lawsuit dragged on, tabloids sniffed around, And suddenly my name and face were floating around in articles and HOA blogs all over the state. Just when you think you're done with the past, it finds a way to claw its way back. I had a choice: lay low, let the neighborhood forget, or keep standing tall, even with a target on my back. So I did what I'd always done. I kept the cameras rolling, kept backup files locked tight, talked to the new neighbors, shared coffee with Greg, checked in on Mrs. O'Rourke. We even started a monthly barbecue. No board business, just folks, ribs on the grill, kids running wild, music spilling from somebody's old speakers. For once, it felt like home. But here's what keeps me up some nights: knowing there's always another Sandra out there, or maybe just an ordinary neighbor, pushed a little too far. Power, fear, pride, those things don't die easy. Not in America, not anywhere. So let me throw it back to you. What's the right line between order and freedom? Who do you trust to set the rules where you live? Ever had to stare down a bully and wonder who's really got your back when it matters? Tell your story in the comments, because maybe that's the only way any of us learn what real community looks like. And hey, if you ever find yourself in a standoff with the next HOA warlord, remember, you don't need a badge to stand your ground. Sometimes you just need to be the neighbor who finally says, enough.